So welcome back to the Keeping It Real Estate Show. Today, we have an incredible guest joining us, Miranda Phillips. Miranda is a physician who created a stream of mailbox money income equivalent to a physician's salary within 3 years of investing in apartments, which is absolutely phenomenal. She's also the co-founder of Elite Wealth and Wellness, teaching other physicians how to gain financial freedom. Dr. Phillips started practicing medicine back in 2009 after graduating medical school with a 4.0 GPA. She is currently a limited partner in approximately 5,000 doors and a general partner in approximately 2,800 doors. So this is going to be a great show. Miranda, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. It's a great honor to be here with you.
Most definitely. Well, let's get started. Why don't you fill in everyone or our listeners a little bit about your background in the medical field and kind of how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure thing. Well, I fell in love with medicine. It was actually during a medical mission trip. Well, it wasn't medical, it was career-oriented mission trip with our youth group. I was involved in a church when I was 16 years old, and they had this youth mission trip that they were basically taking everyone down to Guatemala so that they could experience kind of different areas that would be a little bit career-oriented. Some people building houses, some were in the hospital, others were in the orphanage. He actually started out in the orphanage, and I thought, I love taking care of people. Like, I would love to take care of kids who don't have parents. And then one day, one of the instructors came up to me or one of our counselors for the church and said, "Hey, is there any chance you'd be willing to go work in the hospital? Because the girl that's working there is not doing well with the blood and the heat and the OR and everything." And I was like, "Oh, absolutely, sure." And so I went over there and I absolutely fell in love. But funny thing is, it wasn't with the blood and the cutting and the science. Believe it or not, what I fell in love with was just what I observed, these physicians, the kind of positive impact that they were making in other people's lives, like the amount of profound gratitude and the deeply positive impact that the patient family members had for these physicians. I was like, oh man, this is a job. Like, I could do this like for life and like take care of other people and be able to help people in such a great way. I was sold. And so from that point on, I was like, I'm becoming a physician no matter what it takes. And the funny thing is, no one in my family had ever even gone to college. Now, that's my immediate family or my extended family. So, of course, I came back, I was like, I'm going to be a doctor. And fortunately, my parents gave me like tons of social support. They're like, you can be whatever you want to be. You just go get it.
That's amazing.
And yeah, it was fantastic. And of course, the caveat to that was like, we have no way to help you financially, but, we'll help you figure it out. And so the journey was on, and I ended up finding a way to figure it out and getting financial aid, or in the form of actually scholarships. My mom was a great advocate in that regard, but got a four-year ride through college, fortunately, and then financial aid through medical school, and ended up becoming emergency medicine physician. I chose emergency medicine because I was like, man, I could go to another country, I could be anywhere at any time, and I could take care of anyone, any place, no matter what age, and be able to help a situation. So that was how I decided on emergency medicine. And life was fantastic as an ER doc. I was loving it. I loved the challenge. I loved the trauma center. I continued to self-improve, if you will. I needed a lot of self-improvement, but I continued to try to educate myself and get better day by day. And so I took on leadership roles and went through leadership training and all sorts of stuff. And ultimately, the day my last shift in the ER was still a blast for me. But what had happened was, when you first go into emergency medicine, like, I think a lot of people are similar. Like, they love the adrenaline and the challenge and just going 90 miles an hour. But when we choose emergency medicine, like, we don't have a family that we have to support. Like, we're kids, right? And so we're just like, we're going to go get it. It doesn't matter if we have to stay up all night. Hey, it'll keep us out of trouble, and we're working weekends and holidays, even better, keep us out of trouble. And then all of a sudden, it's like you wake up one day and life is different, and you've got kids and you have a spouse and your family's getting older around you and people want to spend more time with you. And so I think what I observed happen was just, granted, there were some pains at work, there's insurance woes and legal woes and administrative stuff and regulatory stuff and compliance and you name it, right? And I think that's part of what contributes to burnout for physicians. It's like not the medicine and helping others, it's all the other, crapola, if you will, that you got to deal with as a physician. But I think I probably, even though the pains were getting worse, I probably still could have dealt with it. But what was really starting to push me over the edge was, one, I had no time to think about my own health ever, which wasn't that big of a deal because as physicians, we kind of like sacrifice ourselves in a lot of ways anyways. But what became the big deal was whenever my son, was growing up, and he was about 8 years old at the time, and he successfully expressed in just the right way how much he needed me, and he had a transient need that was very profound, and I was as his mom, I was the only one that could help him. And at the time, I was a single mom, and so he needed me, and so my health only became a big deal because my son needed me, and I needed to be there for my son. And so I had a lot of struggles at the time because I was thinking, okay, so I'm a single mom. I can't just drop this income stream, but I'm the only mom he's got. And so he needs me too. So how do I figure this out? And at the time, again, I'm sleeping like maybe 2 to 4 hours a day on average. It's not a joke.
Wow.
It's shameful, but it's just was, and it was part my fault. It took on too much, but nonetheless, I couldn't eat well, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't exercise, I just, it was getting really, really hard. And the pressure cooker, the heat was getting turned up. And so I met my husband, now my husband, around the same time, and he was in a similar situation. And he was a single dad and had, stuff that he was having to tend with his kids as well. And so we kind of came together under similar circumstances, and we decided, we can't like do this forever. There's got to be another way to live. And clearly, we're working so hard, and there's other people that don't appear to be working as hard as we are, and they even make more money than we do. So seriously, we are doing something wrong here. What is it that we're doing wrong? So we went on this journey with all the time we had, all of our extra excess time in the world. And but we made time, right? Because our priorities had changed. And so we kind of split down the middle because again, we were just friends at the time. And so we went in like 50-50 on a lot of things. And one of them was that we were both reading these self-improvement books, these self-help books, and we actually stumbled in that venue across Tom Wheelwright's Tax-Free Wealth book and also Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. We read those like one right after the other and thought, we need to check this out because we don't have time to go start up another business. Like we don't have that kind of time. So we can't create, income that way.
Mm-hmm.
And we definitely don't have, there's not like a bigger job we can go to where we're going to make more money. So, we got to figure something different out. And we don't want to go work just as hard somewhere else and make less money. So that's when we started looking at like investing and thinking about, there's got to be more like smarter ways to make money in your sleep kind of a thing. So it was Wheelwright's group, Wheelwright and Denny, together that walked us through a wealth coaching year. And so during that year, we learned all the ins and outs of investing, every asset class you can imagine, and every subcategory, within those asset classes. And forcefully, we made time to learn and to be coached. And we discovered multifamily investing in there. And we chose that as the vehicle that we were going to use to create our secondary stream of income. And so that was whenever we decided, okay, this is it. Like this just meets all the check boxes for us. And so, of course, as you know, Mike, we ended up pursuing mentorship and looking for a network of other like-minded individuals so that we could really learn and get this all figured out. And it was within 3 years of my very first investment that I had already created an income stream that, was as much as I was making as my physician salary. And clearly I wasn't doing any work at all. The only work I did was fill out the subscription documents to get invested in the deal. And then the work it took to vet the sponsors, the general partners. But my money did the rest of the work. And so at that point I could set sail into the wind, and go help my son the way he needed help and, kind of recover myself, if you will, and get my health back up to optimal. Fortunately, I never had a health catastrophe, but I knew that I was hurting, and so that allowed me to do that. And so when I put in my notice at the trauma center, of course, everyone's like, what in the world? Like, what are you doing? What's going on? And so when I left at that time, I actually wasn't even sure if I'd go back to medicine because honestly, I was in such a bunny hole, and any physician listening to this knows how this goes. Medicine is such a world of its own. It's kind of probably like military. Like you're in this whole world. You don't even know that there's another world out there, and you don't know how to live in that world, and you're not even sure how to navigate it or what your options are. And so when I left medicine, I was just like, I don't know if I'm ever going to practice again, but I know what my priority is right now. It's my son and my health, and those win. I don't care what it takes.
I love
So
that.
I left, and I was able to, kind of recover myself and help out my son. And then ultimately, I found my passion again for medicine and was able to go back into medicine and practice emergency medicine and lifestyle medicine, which I discovered during my sabbatical, I guess, if you will, what I thought was my retirement. And now I just could not be happier. I could never have imagined being as happy as I am today.
That is incredible, Miranda. I love that. First off, you searched out how you could kind of build up that investment income and what you could do to create a little bit of flexibility, in your corporate career or your medicine career. And yeah, I mean, just to create that amount of passive income in 3 years, that is a phenomenal success. So, congrats on that. I love that you read Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright. I think that's a really important aspect too to high income earners, doctors, surgeons, attorneys, you name it, business owners. People are paying so much in tax. And, even if you don't quit your career like you did for a period of time, if you can save a ton on taxes, that's going to alleviate a lot of stress, provide more flexibility. Maybe you can tier back your hours. So I guess if you want to talk a little bit more about that, how does multifamily help high income earners like that alleviate some tax burden?
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, Mike, you're hitting on a good nail there, because you're exactly right. Whenever you're a high income earner, you don't necessarily end up as a single parent and need to like abandon your job, to go take care of business with your family. Sometimes it's just the pain of having to pay so much in taxes. You're working so hard and you're just like, oh my gosh, like I can't work any harder, sacrificing my health and my family time. And yet I'm having to pay what amount of money to Uncle Sam? Like it just feels almost like an injustice at times. And what I really love about multifamily, specifically multifamily investing, is that there are so many tax benefits. I mean, they're unlike any other asset class. So the only thing I can think of that compares is like if you do wildcat drilling, right? But that's such a high risk, right? Because if you drill down into the ground and you come up dry and there's no oil, there's no cash flow. And sure, maybe you get 100% depreciation that you get to write off that year, but that was it. There was no, you don't even get your capital back, right? So it's such a high risk. And yet you can go invest in multifamily and you can get this huge amount of depreciation, which your audience is probably familiar with hearing that word, but basically tax shelters might be another way of saying it to some people in the lay world. But you can get so many tax benefits that you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars in a year just based off of your tax savings, if your situation is right, which of course your CPA always says this, right? Your facts have to be right. And you go down a whole nother podcast of tax planning, right? And having the right CPA that can help you with that, making sure you get your facts right. But suffice it to say, whatever your circumstance and whatever your situation, there's so much money to be made just in the tax saving alone. And that was one of the reasons that, I decided apartments was the way I wanted to go.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, there's so many tax benefits, and it's something to look into with your CPA. And there's certain CPAs out there that might not have all the knowledge surrounding multifamily. So make sure you're searching out the right CPA guidance as well. I'd love to circle back a little bit to physician and medical professional burnout. I know that's a real thing in the medical industry. I was reading a couple of articles the other day, and one was stating that the US average for retirement is right around the age of 64. And then in the medical arena, it's about 65 years old. And it's kind of astounding because obviously you have these individuals making a very good income, yet they're working, for an extended period of time. Plus they have a lot more burnout than some other industries. So I guess, what leads to that, and, how important is it to build that passive income stream to create that flexibility to leave that job when you'd like to?
It's a great question, Mike. And I think that it's multifactorial. I think that there are a couple of different situations that happen. One is, I think that, and I've experienced, certainly I've had physician friends that have been in different types of situations. And, as we've increased our pool of friends that are now physicians and investors, I've certainly heard a lot more about what the different perspectives are of why physicians even have an interest in getting into this.
Mhm.
And so I think that's a great question of you to ask. So one is, I think that burnout can come from several different areas, but I think that the overarching theme is that your priorities as a physician are starting to invert, and you're kind of living a less than integrity full life, if you will. Like, whether it's, you're mad because you can't get home to have dinner with your family, or whether it's your health or your family's health, or you getting angry, because you cannot get your time. I think that when physicians, it's, there's very rarely there's a physician that has a true financial like hardships, right? I mean, we go into a lot of debt to get, through medical school. We take on hundreds of thousands of dollars of loans, and eventually we get it all paid off. And it's a lot. It's a lot of money to pay off. Absolutely. But, if you just common sense things, right? Maybe don't go buy the $1 million house right out of residency, and maybe hold off on the boat a few years, and make some payments on your loans, or if you're going to have that excess cash, instead of paying down your loan, maybe you go invest it, right? But the point being, it's rarely a financial problem that physicians have, except that I've heard it said once, and I cannot credit the person because I don't remember who said it. It wasn't me, but someone that said that a recurring paycheck is more addictive than like crack cocaine type of a thing, And I think that the reason that I really believe that's true is because, unlike maybe business owners or people that they don't have a real solid job secure position in their career, physicians always have job security because there's always a shortage and we're always needed somewhere, and the paychecks are big. And so what happens is, I think we just end up building up this lifestyle, and I think that we end up sacrificing so much time that we're just like, you know what, we deserve to spend some money. Like, we deserve to have a house that we're really happy in, or a car we like to drive, or a vacation we want to go on. And that's where we choose to spend our money. But we don't understand the value of getting educated on creating passive income or investing to have that mailbox money. But again, it's the world we live in. It's not like we went to school. Most of us didn't get business degrees as physicians. We got science degrees of some form, most of us, not all of us. And so it's not like, that there's this, lights and sirens approach in college that says, hey, be sure you invest when you start making a paycheck. I certainly didn't have that. None of my family had done it, and I just didn't know. And so I think that, we end up in this lifestyle where we are, my husband and I like to refer to it as living on the left side or the right side of the chart. And the left side is when your earned income is providing your lifestyle, it's funding your lifestyle. And then the right side is when your mailbox money is funding your lifestyle. And so, for the longest time, I lived in that left side, where I had to make that paycheck. I had to earn that income because I had bills to pay, and some trips to fund to go back and visit family and things like that. And so I think that we end up creating this lifestyle that, even whenever we get to a point where it's like, man, I would like to slow down. I hear this so many times. Physicians say, man, I'd love to slow down, but I can't afford to slow down. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, oh, God help you. Like, I feel so bad. But I was there, it's no fault of their own, except we just don't know there's another way, and trying to help, physicians understand there is a different way. Mm-hmm. But the other side of that coin is, I think part of what contributes to burnout too is it's always this life or death pressure in medicine, right? It's you try to take a vacation, and then all of a sudden you get a call, man, can you please, like, I know you're on vacation, I'm so sorry, but like, there's people dying here and there's shortage, and we need you. How do you as a human say no to stuff like that? And so you feel this pull of like, oh, but I've not had vacation in like 5 years, and this is my first vacation. It's always life or death. And so you get pulled back into this machine that just constantly needs you. Mm-hmm. And so, you may have heard like medicine's like the hidden mistress, right, for people. And it kind of is, you just feel god awful guilty to say no, to not go back into the hospital. So you lose your time. And I think that's part of what contributes to burnout. And then you go to the hospital, and then you spend like 90% of your time doing paperwork and and charting and compliance stuff and regulatory stuff. And there's all this stuff. And, but the most rewarding part of your job, maybe what you spend the least amount of time doing, And that can get pretty deflating as well, and so I think that there are some physicians, and I feel like I don't know these people, but I know they're out there that really feel like they've got a great gig. They've got a 9 to 5, they don't take call, they don't work nights or weekends or holidays. They've got no pain. They've got no reason to change anything they're doing, so they may have an earned paycheck funding their entire life until, maybe when they're old. Because part of what, and this is to answer one of your questions about, why do physicians maybe retire later, part of the thing is that you spend, when you decide to go into medicine, you get vetted pretty well, because I think that professors know if you don't have a big enough why, you're not going to make it. And so I think that we kind of like see that as our purpose in life, to help others by being a physician. And so I feel like there's so many physicians that even when they get close to retirement age, but this is who they are, this is their identity, it's how they feel fulfilled. They don't want to necessarily go spend forever on a beach or, in a boat, with a 6-pack and a fishing pole. They want to have some fulfillment and some purpose in life. And so I think that might be one of the reasons that they end up working till they're, old and gray. But then to circle back to another point you made, it's like physicians have this big paycheck or some discretionary income to some degree. Why don't they just back off and like maybe work less and play more?
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's really, I feel like it has to do back to that whole bunny hole thing. We're in this world, and in this world that we live in the medical world, this physician world, it's like 95% of your mental bandwidth at all times, because you're thinking about the patients you just saw, you're thinking about maybe the case you have tomorrow, you're thinking about your requirements, you're 2 months behind on charts, you've got a state licensure certification coming up, oh, but your board certification, that one's every like 5 or 10 years, and that one's coming up, and then oh crap, every 3 years is your narcotics license, that one's coming up. It
Wow.
never, like, how do you ever make it like, just how do you quiet the craziness inside your brain, right, for even
Right.
2 seconds? And so I think that people just, you're in this world as a physician, and unless you've got, in my opinion, unless you have a big enough pain or
Mm-hmm.
reason to look outside of the world of medicine, you don't.
Yep.
And then when that pain comes, you are totally like, I mean, that's whenever it's like anything, right? You're big enough why. It's either you're being pulled towards pleasure or pushed by pain, and the pain is clearly much more powerful than being pulled by pleasure. And when that pain hits, then I feel like people are all ears. But now you're still starting from square one, because physicians never had the education of finances. Most of us not business, investing,
Mhm.
how to vet, the investment deal. How do you know this is not like a Ponzi scheme? And so
Yep.
then it comes down to relationships and who do you trust, and like word of mouth is huge, and all these things. But hopefully that kind of answered the questions that you had. But please ask
It
me
it
if I can.
certainly does. And I love how you mentioned mental bandwidth and how, physicians are expanding, 95% of their mental bandwidth on their career. And I think that's, not even in the medical arena, but a lot of professions, that's what people are doing. They're spending all their time and their energy on their job. And when they get home, then they have to juggle their family, they have to juggle their kids, they have to juggle activities. And so a lot of times the last thing that people want to do is learn about investing in an asset class or financial freedom or whatnot. So I can certainly relate to that. That's how I was when I was in my former career, and I've seen a lot of people in that situation. One thing I'd like to get into is just advice for individuals that are in that situation and that might want to jump into learning a little bit more about multifamily investing. How can they go about that, and what's kind of the easiest steps to get involved to some extent?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, Mike. So, let me first start off by saying, and I think this wraps up your other question that I just now realized maybe didn't answer. One of the benefits to creating this other passive stream of income is it gives you options, because sometimes we get, emergencies, an ER doc, right? No one ever expects to be in the emergency room ever, like nobody. And so usually not happy and not prepared when they end up in the ER. And
Mhm.
so whether it's our own health or whether it's the health of our family or whether it's the needs of our children that can change on a dime, things come up and we need options and we need backups and we need safety nets. And having another stream of income, especially when it's just your money being put to work to make more money, your money's the one that's working hard while you sleep, kind of a thing. It gives you options so that look, if I need to stop, I'm going to stop. It's not ever going to be a question of finances. If I'm needed elsewhere, I'm going to go. And I think that sometimes, and this for me in that single mom position, right, I had to figure this out and I had to get organized before I could go, before I could take care of what needed to be taken care of as far as what I thought was my priority. And I think everybody's priorities are different. And I think that physicians, whenever something happens in life and you're just like, oh crap, like I need time all of a sudden, and I don't have any time in the foreseeable future, you don't, as a physician, you don't know what's going to happen when you pull that trigger to say, I got to go, I got to give notice, like I got to get out of here, I need my time. And that can be super scary. And, if you've got the luxury of a little bit of time to go ahead and prepare, like I did, then that's more power to you. Not everyone has that amount of time. I know that I have several physician mom friends that their kids got into, severe sudden medical situations. And it didn't matter what kind of financial hardship they had to endure. That was not going to trump taking care of their child. And so, especially for any single physician parents out there, like put your money to work, get to clicking now, because if you've got mailbox money coming in, it makes it so much easier just to say, I love you guys, career, you've been good to me. And maybe there's still more out of me in the future, but right now my priority is different and I have to go take care of something. When you've got that mailbox money in, it's just not a thing, you're just like, okay, I'm prepared. This is fine. And so I think therein lies your last question, which is, how do you get educated quickly, and then how do you find who to invest with and who to trust? And I think that there are different ways of going about it. There's kind of the slower route of just educating yourself by books, and podcast is great. That certainly takes a lot of time away from having to just sit and read a full book. You can listen to podcasts, which we put a lot of information into a short amount of time. Podcasts are wonderful. There's courses that can be taken. There's all sorts of ways. I would say leveraging someone who's doing what you're doing is probably the fastest, right? And that can be in the form of mentorship. It could be a friend, who's already doing what you're doing, and they've already figured out who they can trust, and they can introduce you to the person that you can trust. There's so many ways to go about it. For one of the things that my husband and I did, we were talking to so many people that were asking us all these questions. We finally just started recording what we were talking about and kind of made a course out of it, right? I think a lot of people do that in some form or fashion to try to help educate their network, their own personal ecosystem of friends that they have.
I love that.
But just like you and Dan, people that know you guys they already trust you, they have a relationship. You and I both know this, Mike, it takes time to build trust. Like there's no fast route to getting trust. And so it's super helpful to know someone that you trust who might know someone else that they trust. And so word of mouth, I feel like, is just, it's so imperative when it comes to investing. And that was the route I went. I did get a mentor and I did get involved in an ecosystem. And that's how I met people. But then I got to know those people and then came to trust those people, and then saw them doing things that I thought, okay, well, they're doing that. So, okay, I feel like I can do this and probably have a good chance of success. And then over time, you just start to develop these relationships and you get to know people. You have dinner with them or coffee with them. You meet their family. You see, sometimes you get into the weeds and you see their balance sheets or their finances, and it makes a believer out of you. And you have more friends that you hear about the successes, and then you're like, oh man, look, Johnny's winning. And I know Johnny, and so like I'm gonna go his route, whatever route he went. So I think again, there's no shortcut to that trust, and so I think there's so much power in finding someone that might know someone else, that they've been with, that they've got a relationship with. And I know that there's 506Cs, right, where you don't have to have the pre-existing relationship and you bring investors in. But honestly, Mike, I just don't like to do it that way. I don't like to be an investor that way, and I don't like to be a general partner that way if I can really help it, because it's just, there's so much more value, in my opinion, in human capital than there is financial capital. And to me, it is so powerful to already have relationships, so that when a decision needs to be made, like the people that invest with me, they know, like, just like with you, Mike. I mean, when, I've invested in your deal before, and I know you, and I know the caliber of person you are. I know the quality of person you are. So like when you need to make a decision, I trust that you've got more facts, you've got more context, you know what needs to be done. I know that our goals are aligned. And so I trust you to make the decision. And so the amount of communication that you need to give me and the amount of questions I ask you, it's pretty minimal, because that trust is already there. And so to me, that's just invaluable.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's one of the most important pieces to passively investing, is just making sure that you vet the sponsor that you're jumping in with and investing with. And, not only that, getting to know them, like you had mentioned. And I think about our business in the last, 5 to 10 years, and it's not even, on the investing side, with who you're investing with. It's the property management team that you're working with. It's your CPA, it's your attorney, all those different aspects of business and investing and of life. If you can find a referral from someone that you trust and they have a great relationship with that person, it just means so much. And, it can really fuel your success so much quicker, and alleviate a lot of hiccups and mistakes.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Just like you said, on that general partner side, you're right. Like I almost have gotten to the point now, Mike, for better, for worse, like I won't really even do business with anyone that I don't already have this trusting relationship with, or that I have a very trusting relationship friend that can refer me, to do business with them. Because now it's just like, it's a scary thought to me to pick up the phone and talk to someone that I don't even know, and I don't have a friend who knows them. It's almost that, almost kind of an accountability piece. It's just like, I mean, whenever you're doing business, if you've got someone who's going to kind of keep you accountable, because you're like, man, I don't want to hurt that person, there's just so much more power in that.
There really is. And, I would advise anyone out there, if you don't have that sort of trust with someone, give it some time. Don't rush into anything. The last thing that you want to do is rush into an investment. So, great information there, Miranda. I'd love to move on to, markets and types of assets that you're focusing on and why. Are you able to share a little information on that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I really enjoy Dallas and Houston. I would say that's where 98% of our general partnerships are, investments, and even our limited partnerships. Honestly, it's probably 85% of our LP investments, and 95% of the GP stuff. But some of the facts right now, of course, in the Dallas and Houston markets, are that we have to contend with the fact that property taxes and insurance
Mhm.
rates continue to go up, and so it just affects our underwriting. That's all. It just means that we have to work a little harder to find that deal that we want to pursue, right? But the other than that, the whole environment right now, there's lower leverage loans now, and of course interest rates are up, and so those two things also make it a little difficult. And again, I say difficult, and I use that word loosely, because really time is your friend with multifamily, right? I mean, you invest in an apartment, as long as you've underwritten the deal correctly, then you've just got time. And as long as you have reserves, you float through whatever cycle comes and goes, and then you still make money on the back end. And so again, goes back to trusting whoever's doing the underwriting, right, and making sure you've got it right. But I would say you got to be landlord friendly. And I would say another jewel that we've recently discovered, and not to talk about specifics because we are in a raise right now, and it is not a publicly advertised deal. So,
Mhm.
but one of the markets that is, and Neil, Bawa has talked about this as well. A lot of people are starting to talk about this area, is Northwest Arkansas.
Mhm.
That is a really up and coming area, one of the top 5 fastest growing cities in the entire United States. And if you haven't been there, you should go. It'll amaze you. You think of Arkansas, it's not what you think of when you get there into Northwest Arkansas. But those are the markets that I tend to really be a big fan of right now. Florida's got some good ones as well. We just recently sold a deal in Orlando, and so there's always good markets down in that region too. The Sun Belt in general is nice, but yeah.
Certainly. Yeah. I think focusing in on the landlord friendly states, like you had mentioned, I was just reading an article this morning on a big case that Blackstone lost, where they have a property out in New York and a bunch of tenants sued them because they're pushing rents, and they're limited to how much they can push rents there, and that can significantly impact your business plan and the returns, the success of the project. So I think that's of crucial importance, and just do a little bit of research on what markets you're looking to invest in. And I think if you again, vet out the sponsor, they're likely going to be investing in those states and those cities where you're kind of setting yourself up for success, and you have all the wins at your sails, which is always what you look for.
Absolutely. And you said it in a great way, which is, a good market is a market where you can hedge your risk, where you can put like everything in your favor as much as possible when you're going into a deal, right? And so just like you guys do, it's really about what are the numbers, what are the facts, and how can you just totally like mitigate the risk and swing all the odds in your favor so that you under promise and over deliver.
That's right. Exactly right. And one of my next questions was going to be, what are some of the biggest challenges in today's market? But you kind of already answered that. You said interest rates are rising, you have insurance costs rising, especially in, Texas, Florida, some of those states. And I think that's just something you have to be conservative with and pay attention to upfront. So that way, again, you're setting yourself up for success. Any other challenges that you've seen in the market over the last year and going forward?
I think those are the biggest ones. I think uncertainty is always a challenge. And of course, there's been a lot of uncertainty in the last couple of years with the pandemic specifically. So I think anytime there's certainty, the market tends to reflect that as well. And not just, stock market, but all markets and banks, right? And I think that understanding the temperature of what a bank is feeling, the bank's temperature, and really keeping a pulse on that. Because of what I've observed and what I have come to realize is when banks get scared, they project that scaredness onto the investments to make sure that they're hedging their own risks. And sometimes that can mean tucking away more money out of the cash flow to get ready for something bad that could potentially happen. And so I think it's just always important to try to be as accurate and as conservative. And Mike, I know you guys do a great job with this, but be as conservative as possible with the underwriting, and have reserves, and just have a good synergistic general partner team, and I think that's if the general partner team, if they don't have good synergy, man, it can sure make things difficult. It can make things really difficult, and it can make things clunky, and there's a lot of things that have to happen, and I know you've said it before, apartment investing is a team sport. And, if players on the team or if there's some, politics or some rumors or some, drama going on, it just, man, it can make matters worse. But if you want the dream team, you find the team that there's trust and there's synergy and they just mush well together. Those teams tend to do multiple deals together, and kind of go on for a long time. And it may not always be the exact same people, but the core, is critical.
Yeah, that synergy is everything. I mean, I've seen multiple general partnership teams where they're having issues. They have personality conflicts. They can't work through certain issues, and time is money in this industry. And if you can't solve a problem quickly, that problem is going to snowball and it's going to affect the financials. So yeah, again, make sure that you find a team that has great synergy. And I love how you mentioned reserves as well, especially in today's environment. You want to make sure that you have a good amount of reserves. So that way, if you do, run into an economic downturn, like we're, starting to experience right now, you can get through that storm and coast out the other side and still make a great return for your investors or on your passive investment. So keep an eye out for that as well while you're investing. Miranda, I'd love to hear some of your biggest lessons that you've learned in your business or even in your personal life or medical career. If you could share some information on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. I definitely have learned some tough lessons in life. That's for sure. There is extreme and extraordinary power in in people who own everything that happens to them. Have that extreme ownership of outcomes, and to that end, work to improve themselves, their communication, their knowledge, their they're just everything about them. Typically, those people tend to be very humble people and people that welcome any type of feedback, good or bad, and they take it to heart and they reflect and they think about what could I have done better, or how could I have made that person happier but still do the right thing, or how could I have communicated better so that I could have avoided that difficult conversation where there was that misunderstanding. And so I feel like it doesn't matter what part of my life it's in, whether it's medicine, relationships, business, investing, it really doesn't matter. I feel like the biggest thing that has benefited me the most is really just learning how to improve myself and how to really take ownership of the outcomes and not ever point a finger or, blame or complain or defend, but instead just stay solution focused and focus on myself more than anybody else, and figure out how to get better. And those are the people I like to run with as well, which, is one of the reasons you and I are friends, Mike, right? Is those are the kind of people that, man, you can move mountains, you can move worlds when you're running with people like that, just because the amount of knowledge they're going to acquire over a lifetime is endless, and the amount of improvement over a lifetime is endless, and the amount of kindness in people that have that mindset is endless. And so the trust just comes naturally, and good communication comes naturally. Respect, mutual respect comes naturally. And it doesn't, like, that's how you avoid getting sued in medicine. It just doesn't matter what it is. It's how you avoid, divorces, and you avoid your kids hating you. And it's every aspect of life. And whenever that becomes, the very being of who you are, and it's everything about your world, I just feel like it changes. It just makes everything so much better.
I absolutely love that. Taking ownership. I think about the property management teams that we work with and some of the regionals that we just have phenomenal relationships with. And they're doing that. If there's an issue, they take ownership for it. They go out and they search, to figure out what the solution can be and how they can alleviate that in the future. Self-learners. I love that answer, Miranda.
That's awesome.
So I'd love to hear, any goals going into 2023, and what are you looking to accomplish this year?
Well, in 2023, one of the goals was to, you and I were talking about this a little bit before the podcast started, but the Build Your Life Resume, that Jesse Itzler has, that program, and his words, not mine, his big ass calendar, where where it's really prioritizing the most important things in life, which, include having, something that is a personal goal, kind of a performance personal goal on the calendar. And then also having made special moment time, if you will, like go have those times where you can make special memories that are unique. It's not just another weekend, but, unique with your family, with your kids, or with your spouse. And and so I feel like, one of the things my husband and I have done is we've got one of those calendars. Go Jesse, awesome dude. We love it. And we're so excited about just being so purposeful in 2023. And it's interesting because, we've got our calendar pretty much completely full now. And so even our kids are like, what's this? And after they figured out what it was, oh, they just went on and on about it. They were like, we love how we can look up and see that we're going to be going to wherever, whenever. And so they get to look forward to it as well. And I think it's just, that I would say in the personal world, that's a huge 2023 accomplishment, just to have that calendar. And now it's just a matter of execution. And then, another goal that we had put forth was that we wanted to make our life this year look different than last year, not just have the same old thing. And, so we joined a mastermind group, and that we've not been a part of before, in an effort to help create that for us. And the amount of people we've met has just been phenomenal. The caliber of people we've met in this group is phenomenal. And then, over in the business world, not letting medicine control us, but we control it. And I think that my husband and I have both kind of figured that one out now, and that's been a success. And so now we get to really focus on kind of helping communicate to the physician world how valuable that mailbox money can be, and how it can save you when you least expect it. And so now, I'd say our business goal this year has been to really focus on how do we kind of get our story out there to more ears, more physician ears, so that they can understand, what life could be like, what could happen that you're not expecting, and then how to mitigate risk in life by creating multiple streams of income, multiple revenue streams. And so that's kind of where we're looking in 2023 to get to.
Well, that's amazing. I'm excited to see what 2023 brings, and for you. And I know you're absolutely going to crush it. And with that, I know you've been a self-learner for quite a long time, and have gotten a lot from books and podcasts. Do you have any recommendations, a couple book recommendations or podcast recommendations for our listeners at all?
In the world of extreme ownership, there's actually Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, a couple of Navy SEAL guys. Even if you're not military, I would really recommend grab the book and read it, because it's just, man, those guys put a story together, and it helps you understand how important and how critical and how powerful it can be to take extreme ownership. So yeah, I mean, that's a great book. Man, there's so many books I like, Mike. That for anyone who's never read Cash Flow Quadrant, it's probably none of your listeners. But man, that one changed my world and just totally pulled my head out of the bunny hole of medicine and said, "Wait, what? There's another life out there that can look different than this. Hold it! I thought I had arrived. Hang on." And then the book we talked about earlier, The Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright. I mean, Wheelwright, he's not the only person that looks at taxes way, but the way he looks at taxes, and he's so passionate, and when he wrote that book, you could just tell he was coming from such a positive place of let me help you understand why the tax code was written in the first place, and let me help you understand how it's a set of incentives, and all you got to do is just follow the incentives. There's no find how to get away with murder or get a loophole or break the rules. It's not that at all. It's really just a matter of understanding what the government sees as valuable, and then working to partner with the government and help them achieve their goals, which includes providing housing for others, and so I think that that's a great book to understand the importance of how a CPA teammate can really be a huge benefit, and finding one that specializes in what you want to specialize in, whether it's business and or real estate and or whatever professional career you might have at your fingertips.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate that. Definitely check out those books. And Miranda, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show today. If our listeners do want to get in contact with you, what would be the best way to do that?
Oh yeah, no, listen, it's my pleasure, Mike. It's been an enjoyable conversation, and thank you so much. I'm honored to be on your metaphorical stage here. I greatly appreciate it. It's a privilege. And yeah, so people can reach out to me. They can actually contact me at Miranda at elitewealthandwellness.com. The and in the middle is spelled out, so elitewealthandwellness.com. Feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions. And Mike, kudos to you and Dan. This is a great podcast, helping a lot of people. And I know your listeners already know this, but man, you guys are high caliber guys, and we really think a lot of you guys, and enjoy hanging out with you, and hope to hang out more in the future, and continue doing business together with you guys.
Well, thank you so much. We think the world of you and your husband as well. So great people to get to know. Make sure to reach out to Miranda when you get the chance.
Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.